Congressman Doug Laborn will come up to introduce the concluding call to action final speaker of Summit 2013. My former state Senate colleague, upset winner of a tough primary and the #1 conservative ranked vote in the U.S. House time after time after time in the impartial National Journal rankings. Doug Laborn, Congressman, 5th District, Colorado Springs.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, John. You know, John and I served in the state Senate together. We have a lot of stories we could go into. Great conservative. Let me just say he has a book out, his latest book, Restoring Responsibility. Everyone needs to buy that and read it. Well, as I introduce our final great speaker, and it's a real honor to do so, examine with me for just a couple of moments a question. What is a hero? What is a hero? Is a hero a movie celebrity, a rock star, a hip-hop artist? Those are people that have large followings. Young people want to imitate them. But I don't think so. If you don't stand for permanent and enduring values, in my book anyway, you're not a hero. Is a talented athlete a hero? Now, I appreciate superb athleticism, especially if it benefits the Denver Broncos. But using your God-given abilities is enjoyable to watch, but I don't think that that's heroic in and of itself. Now, if an athlete overcomes adversity, then we start to see something heroic. Overcoming adversity shows strength of character, and to me, that is heroic. We all know people who are maybe never recognized by society who've overcome challenges, maybe people in our own families, and those are heroes in my book. So that's the first thing. Overcoming adversity. But second, it's heroic to put your life and safety on the line for others. If you put your life on the line to be in a movie, Jackass 4, or something like that, that's not heroic. That's silly. But I have the opportunity, I have the honor of representing Colorado Springs, 5 major military installations. There are a lot of heroes in Colorado Springs, a lot of heroes in the military. I love being on the House Armed Services Committee, and just 3 days ago we found out that another Fort Carson soldier was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. Staff Sergeant Ty Carter, in 2009 in Afghanistan at Camp Outpost Keating, he ran through a hail of bullets that had killed others, and he saved the life of he brought a soldier to safety who was wounded. He brought supplies to his men. He's a hero. And a few days ago, I had the opportunity to meet with and talk with the guy who killed Osama bin Laden, a Navy SEAL. And in my book, he's a hero. He tells an interesting story. By the way, he and his Navy SEAL buddies, they didn't think they were going to come back alive. That's part of heroism. When he was, a year later, he was with his daughters back here in the States. They were getting ready to go somewhere, and he heard on the radio, the guy said, "Do you remember where you were a year ago when you found out Osama bin Laden was dead?" And he thought to himself, yeah, I was in his bedroom looking down at him. So these people are heroes. We also have first responders, and they put their lives on the line for us, and those are heroes also. But our founding fathers, they talked about not just pledging our lives, but our fortunes and our sacred honor. And so when we put our lives and our livelihoods and our reputations on the line, that is heroism also. That's what the founding fathers represented. That's what they told us. We've probably, all of us here, suffered criticism for standing up for conservative values. So we may not be called to put our life on the line, like in the military, but we can put our reputations on the line by standing up for the right values, even when we face criticism. So to me, that is heroism also. Now, why do I mention these 3 things? because they all have to do with the man who's going to come and speak to us. Allen West had the character to overcome adversity. He was born in inner city Atlanta in 1961. He worked hard to get an education. He joined and advanced in the military. He got a master's in military arts and sciences from the U.S. Army Command and General Staff Officer College. Number two, he was a lieutenant colonel serving in Iraq during combat, where they put it on the line. He served 22 years in the military. When he was in Iraq, he did whatever it took to protect his soldiers. Enough said. And number three, Allen West put his reputation on the line. He ran for Congress in 2008, lost. He ran in 2010, won. Then in a contentious and expensive election in 2012, he narrowly lost. But he was a friend and colleague of mine for 2 years when he was in the U.S. Congress. We served on House Armed Services Committee together. The best thing I can say about my friend Allen West is that he stood for all the right values and he told it like it was. Now, since 2000, he's continued to tell it like it is. That's why we're so much looking forward to hearing from him. So please help me welcome a true American hero, Colonel Allen West.
Thank you so much. And I want to first of all thank the Senators Bill Armstrong and John Andrews for the privilege and the honor to be here. It's great to be back in Denver, Colorado. I was out here last summer when I had the opportunity to speak at the Denver GOP. And I'd like to recognize someone who is responsible for me being in politics, because back in January of 2007, during a break coming back from Afghanistan, there was a woman that said she wanted to meet with me and talk about potentially, when I finished my time training and working with the Afghan Army, to come back and run for Congress. Her name is Donna Brossemer. She has moved from Florida. She now lives out here in Denver. And so, Donna, wherever you are, please stand and be recognized as the person that brought me into the political scene. I also stand here with a bit of a sad heart, because I was just recently told that one of the great heroes of this country, a Medal of Honor recipient and also a POW, Colonel Bud Day, who was a fellow Floridian, just passed away. So please remember Colonel Bud Day, because he truly represents that which is the greatest among each and every one of us. Those veterans, those men and women who are willing to serve and sacrifice and commit so that the freedoms and liberties that we all enjoy each and every day will never, ever be lost. Now, you're only in your fourth year, but the Western Conservative Summit has already become the country's premier summer destination for Americans who still believe in freedom, family, faith, and our future. And you already gave a round of applause to the staff. You already gave a round of applause to the organizers. You already gave a round of applause to the veterans who have served. But I would like for each and every one of you to give yourselves a round of applause for being here at this summit. Now, we have come to this beautiful mountain city called Denver, high in the Rockies, from all corners of our great nation, from all diverse walks of life. But we will leave here bound with the unity of purpose. So here we are on the Lord's Day, committed to the timeless principles of conservatism that have made us, America, the envy of the world. You are here because you believe, as I believe, that the United States needs a strong, robust national defense, a robust free market economy, and that the individual is sovereign. You are here because you believe, as I do, that a government keeps its power restrained within the four corners of the parchment that we call the United States Constitution. This is the conference of the West. This is the conference of the frontier, of people who hacked a nation out of the wilderness and didn't need Washington to tell them how to do it. Of people who put their faith in God and not the federal government. The West is America's last great bastion of independence and liberty. When I think about Colorado's motto, it's a motto that we all should live by. Nothing without providence, nothing without God. But above all, believe that this country, now more than ever, needs a clear definition of morality, of right and wrong, born out of respect of our nation's Judeo-Christian faith heritage. In God we trust, without hesitation, without wavering, and without doubt. And not far from here, as Congressman Laborn just mentioned, at Fort Carson, the men and women of the Army unit in which I served and commanded in Iraq, the 4th Infantry Division, they have a simple motto, and it's the motto that I use today: steadfast and loyal. And it is such an honor to be among steadfast and loyal Americans who love their country with the same passion that they love God and that they love each other. Now, loving your country is one thing, but loving government is another. And skepticism of strong central governments is one of our great American traditions. Because when you start choosing government and not God, you start to believe some really nutty things. See, if you believe that the words separation of church and state are in the Constitution, but the right to bear arms is not, you might be a liberal. If you believe in the right to choose an abortion but not the size of your soda, you might be a liberal. If you believe in getting government out of the bedroom, unless it's taxpayer-subsidized birth control, you might be a liberal. But most importantly, if you believe that Barack Obama can lower the ocean seas and heal the planet, you most definitely are a liberal. Now, just because a socialist, secular, humanist, progressive carried this state and indeed won the last 2 presidential elections does not mean that the people of Colorado and indeed the United States of America have abandoned conservatism. All we need to do to look in a Bible verse, 2 Corinthians 5:17, where it says, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. It is the same in politics. One day soon, this old progressive socialist agenda will pass away. And it has failed all over the world. It will fail here in the United States of America. It is failing in the United States of America. As Ronald Reagan said back on October the 27th of 1964, it is a time for choosing. And that time for choosing has come once again. And those of you who are sitting out here must be the messengers of the message that we must send forth. Because secular progressives like Obama and Reid and Pelosi will continually seek to divide this country along the artificial cleavages that they create. They want to set men against women, black against white, rich against poor, north against south, east against west, divide and conquer. We saw that in 2012. We'll see it again. We see it now. But I ask that you not be tricked into playing their game. Because as conservatives, we believe in unity. We believe in e pluribus unum. We believe that we are all God's children. Now, I am darn proud of my black heritage and the history of achievement of blacks in the United States of America. I'm so proud of the way that my 2 parents, now deceased of course, they raised me, both of them born in hard times down in South Georgia. but they taught me that this is the greatest nation that the world has ever known. They taught me one simple thing, that you may be black, but you're an American. And friends, that is always the first thing that's important to me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Do you know what conservatives believe? We believe that the colors that matter aren't on our skin, but on our flag. We believe that the only colors that are worth 1 ounce of sweat, a pint of tears, a gallon of blood are the colors that are red, white, and blue. We believe in those colors because those colors unite. Liberals believe in colors that divide. And if you don't believe me, we've seen that in just the past several weeks. Take it from this black conservative. Nothing freaks out liberals more than the prospect of black Americans and other minorities liberating themselves from years of government dependence. Nothing spooks liberals more than the idea of a black man, a Hispanic woman, or an Asian American pulling a lever for freedom and not government. Nothing sends them into a frenzy more than strong conservative Hispanic leaders like Senator Ted Cruz, Congressman Raul Labrador, and Governor Susana Martinez. Nothing makes them crazed than principled black leaders like Mayor Mia Love or congressional candidate from Arizona, Vernon Parker. Let's take the immigration debate going on in Washington, D.C. as we speak. Too many Republicans have been hoodwinked. We have been browbeaten. We have been browbeating into thinking that the Republican Party will be doomed because we lost the Latino vote in the most recent election. They think that unless amnesty is given to lawbreakers, those who have disrespected the laws of our constitutional republic by entering illegally, that their peers will never vote for them. Well, let's remember the words of Ronald Reagan when he said, "Latinos are Republicans. They just don't know it yet." From every corner of the world, there are people who want their first step on American soil to mark a new beginning, not a broken law. If you are an immigrant who dreams of this land of the free and the home of the brave and wants to come here respecting our laws and way of life, I say to you, welcome. Now, we should always be compassionate. And conservatives have always been on the side of the impoverished fleeing tyranny and seeking liberty. And I can't imagine how difficult it is to legally immigrate to America. I think some of us know that it probably takes 3 hours in the 7th circle of Hades just to get a driver's license renewed in most states in the United States of America. So can you imagine what legal immigrants have to endure to earn their citizenship? But ladies and gentlemen, that does not give anyone, not me, not you, the right to break the laws set by the people of this great nation. Waving the magic wand of amnesty, rewarding lawbreakers, and punishing the long lines of freedom seekers lined up outside our shores is not the American way. And that's not how we do things here. Thank you. See, liberals pride themselves on some pretty funny things, like the ability to squeeze 12 votes out of 6 people, or get a busload of non-citizens past election officials. I say, let's put it back into their face. If they pride themselves in getting illegal immigrants to the polls, then let us be the first ones standing outside citizenship ceremonies, offering a friendly hand and open arms and saying, welcome to conservatism. Welcome to our United States of America. And folks, I don't want to hear that conservatives can't compete with liberals who are willing to do one simple thing: take our tax dollars to leverage votes. that is the height of foolishness. That assumes that government is competent, because government is really only good at two things: levying taxes against the productive and redistributing it to their cronies. Conservatives have far more to offer than government cheese. We are people of faith. People of faith are people of love. We are people of community and people of fellowship. Our politics at every turn and every angle in every issue should reflect that. To be a Christian means walking the path of Christ. We all talk about getting our fellow citizens off the government's dole. Now, we can continue to talk, but we need to start to walk. Who here has the courage to act like Christ instead of simply talking like Christ? Who here has what it takes to volunteer in an inner city neighborhood to help a child out of poverty? And if you don't think we are needed, look at what just happened to Detroit. Who here has the courage to adopt an abandoned infant? See, we don't need to go to other countries to find children who need love, who need a loving family, who need a chance to live the American dream. They're right here in our own neighborhoods. And if we're serious about doing the walk, we will go into these neighborhoods. Who here has the guts to get out into those Latino communities and tutor English? Because that's the way that we make English the official, the national language of the United States of America. You know, Doug brought up a great point. I'm just an old soldier. I'm a paratrooper. And life for paratroopers is pretty simple. The red light means you don't jump. The green light means you do jump. I couldn't fly airplanes, so I got in the line to jump out of airplanes. But that means that I'm very blunt in what I say and what I do. And what I'm telling you is this: if we can match our actions to our principles, we will have a conservative supermajority in the United States of America for decades to come, for the next generation, for our children and our grandchildren. It is a time for choosing. What shall you choose? Now, Barack Obama says if you attack government, you attack the idea of democracy and pluralism. You attack the very concept of self-rule and self-governance. But perhaps they didn't pay attention to what happened in California, where liberal progressives and their special interest groups sought to overturn the referendum of the people of that great state when it came to Proposition 8. Perhaps they're not paying attention to what just happened with Attorney General Eric Holder just last week, saying that even though the Supreme Court ruled on the Voting Rights Act, Section 5, he's still going to bring a lawsuit against Texas. See, the rules are as they dictate. And as Bill Whittle said, and as someone once taught me, if you ever find yourself in a fair fight, it's all because your tactics suck. Here is a government that tells us what sugary drinks we can buy, what type of light bulbs we must have in our house, what kind of doctor we're allowed to visit, what kind of toilet or shower head we can put into our bathrooms, what type of businesses, and yes, you did build it, that you're allowed to run. And the president will say, if you oppose all of this silliness, if you oppose this onerous overreach of government, then you hate democracy. If you oppose that, you may find yourself with an unexpected audit slip from the IRS. And let me make myself very clear. The only thing that is phony in Washington, D.C. is Barack Obama. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I bet that'll be on the papers pretty soon here. Just spell my name right, A with 2 L's and an E. But remember, it was you, it was conservatives, and the Tea Party activists that won back the House of Representatives. Elections have consequences, and those conservative congressmen and women that you helped elect are now all that stands between the progressives and their dystopian vision of amnesty and a new imported class of government dependents who will vote for them. And see, from this state of Colorado, you have some pretty good conservative men representing you in the House. I know because I served with them. Cory Gardner, Scott Tipton, Mike Kaufman, and my dear friend Doug Lamborn. That's right, give them a round of applause. Tell them that now is not the time to go wobbly, to stand up for conservatism and against amnesty. If not them, then who? If not this fight, then when? I believe this as well. The introduction and the growth of freedom-loving libertarians is a great thing for the conservative movement. But we have to stop attacking each other and start focusing on our common adversary, progressive socialists. There are both libertarians and conservatives in the House who will say this: give me 100% of what I want, or I'm not voting with you. And I was a member of the class of 2010, and I saw that a lot. Instead of rolling up their sleeves and working across every corner of the conservative platform, these members said often, my way or the highway. So they pack up their toys and they end up voting with Nancy Pelosi. So I'll tell you this: if you want to roll back the tide of statism and creeping government influence, conservatives and libertarians have to start playing this game strategically. We have to stop playing checkers and start playing chess. How many people here really want to see the Affordable Care Act, that which we know as Obamacare repeal? We voted on that countless amounts of times. And understand this: President Obama knows that it sucks. The union, they know that it sucks. The Democrats, Max Barker said it's a train wreck. They know that it sucks. So this is what we must do. Just yesterday, Senator Ted Cruz talked about this is the last opportunity to defund it, to not allow it to be funded in the next continuing resolution. He, standing with Senator Mike Lee, another great Western conservative. But what hurt my heart was when Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, a Republican, took to the Senate floor and said that was the dumbest idea he had ever heard. Well, guess what, Senator? They teach you when you're in an ambush to do something. And at least Senators Lee and Senators Cruz are seeking to do something, because we cannot allow this Affordable Care Act to go in and truly be executed. It will become an entitlement program that will destroy this economy. It will destroy small business growth. And I say, let's call the House, let's call those senators, let's get 41 senators, let's get 218 members of the House to stand and say, once and for all, we're not crossing this line. We are not going to fund Obamacare. The problem is with us as Republicans, sometimes with us as conservatives. Let's stop reading the New York Times. Let's stop reading the Washington Post. Let's stop reading the Los Angeles Times. Let's stop worrying about we're going to get blamed. They don't like us. If you stand on principle, if you stand on what's right, that is what matters. Not whether or not you're liked. It is about whether or not you're respected. That was the way of Ronald Reagan. To find common values, to find the common issues, to forge alliances. That does not mean we start bending and breaking our constitutional conservative principles. Never. That's the way you lose an election, not win it. It means we start to divide and conquer the progressive socialists. But it is much easier to advance conservative ideas with friends than it is with foes. And so I have a hard time believing that a libertarian and a conservative cannot ally together to beat back progressive socialism in America. And one of those common issues that we cannot ignore is a clear and present crisis, the breakdown of the American family. In 1964, at the inception of LBJ's Great Society, only 7% of American children were born out of wedlock. Now, over 40% of American children are born out of wedlock. If you look at the breakdown by race, the results are even more striking. The white out-of-wedlock birth rate was just 2% in 1964. Now it is almost 30%. Among black Americans in 1964 it was 14%. Today it is 72%. 1 out of every 2 Hispanic children born today, born out of wedlock. Scholars have looked at this data and come to the inescapable truth that is, if you graduate from high school, wait until you get married, have children, hold a full-time job, you are significantly less likely to end up in poverty. There is a direct link between the breakdown of the American family, the increase in poverty, and the increase of government dependency. Ronald Reagan said it best when he said the family has always been the cornerstone of American society. Our families nurture, preserve, and pass on to each other, succeeding generations, the values we share and cherish, values that are the fundamental foundation of our freedoms. But the progressive, politically correct police do not want us to acknowledge reality. They do not want us to speak the hard truths and encourage our fellow citizens to take personal responsibility for their lives. They do not want us to promote an opportunity society. They prefer dependency, where a government handout becomes the easiest way to buy votes of this constituency or that constituency. We as conservatives believe, as Benjamin Franklin once said, the best way to help the poor is to make them uncomfortable in their poverty. Because nearly 50 million Americans are on food stamps. Nearly 50 million Americans need government assistance to do something as basic as feed themselves and their families. 50 million Americans. That's greater than the population of the country of Spain. That is a 70% increase in food stamp enrollment since President Obama took office. The worst economic recovery since the Depression. More and more people dropping out of the job market and giving up. This is Barack Obama's America. One nation underfed, one nation underemployed, one nation underprivileged. And the great lesson of Obama's 2 elections, one nation underwhelmed. I say today, on this Lord's Day, at the Western Conservative Conference, let's bring back one nation under God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And when you talk about God's blessings, here we have a nation overflowing with natural resources, with Americans hungry for both jobs and the energy needed to power this first world economy. Here we've got millions of people out of work and energy costs skyrocketing, an abundance of oil and shale and natural gas, and unlimited workers ready to pull it out from the ground. All we have to do is to embark upon that great venture. We're not limited by technology or lack of manpower or supply. You know what's standing in our way? It is President Obama and his EPA. And now another new progressive socialist acolyte, his new head of the EPA, Gina McCarthy. You don't have to look as far as the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, which should have been open for drilling years ago. You need only look at the ground beneath our feet here in Colorado. There is an ocean of oil here in the Colorado shale. We must not allow the radical environmentalists and their sympathizers in all levels of government to stop us from extracting these resources, because less government regulations allows for more innovation and job creation. Since 2010, oil production is up 64% in Colorado alone. This is how the American economy is supposed to work. We develop new incredible technologies like hydraulic fracking. We create jobs using this new technology. This, in turn, spurs on investment and eases the pressure on families who need to heat their homes and to take their children to school or maybe just on vacation. They are the ones who will truly feel the pain of high energy costs, not the big oil companies. We understand this. The president and his misguided progressive acolytes do not. This president needs to approve the Keystone XL pipeline yesterday. It is a no-brainer. It will create thousands of good-paying jobs for Americans and move us closer to the North American energy independence. You know, Ronald Reagan once said, military power wins battles, but spiritual power wins wars. I like them both. Never mind that in these days, a high school football team in Texas can't join hands in prayer before a game without a lawyer from the ACLU running up and suing them. It is fortunate, though, that your moral courage, your spirituality, the power of faith and ideas, the love of Christ cannot be suppressed by the laws of man, no matter how hard progressive and secularists try to do that. But here is what worries me the most. Right this moment, we're witnessing the systematic dismantling of the incredible American military that I remember President Ronald Reagan building. See, Barack Obama loves all kinds of spending, unless it's to provide for the common defense of these great United States of America. See, he'll commit our men and women to places like Libya and perhaps Syria because his supposed UN ambassador, Samantha Power, believes that that is the right and responsible role for our military. He'll hog the credit for the daring courage of our Navy SEALs. He'll use the military as a political pawn to force conservatives to tax and spend more. And he'll use the military as a petri dish for every little social experiment that he wants. Like having gay pride celebrations at Kandahar base in Afghanistan. And I remember Kandahar base in Afghanistan for the 2.5 years I was there, and we were told we couldn't profess our Christian faith. We were told to be careful about having Bibles out in public and wearing crosses. Forcing military chaplains to perform same-sex marriages against their faith and their beliefs. Or putting women in special operations units like Rangers and Navy SEALs, because to President Obama and to liberal progressives, it's just a job. And it's just being a job, everyone should be able to be in that job position so they can get promoted. That's the warped sense of social egalitarianism that is seeping into our military. See, what he won't do is give our military the resources and support they need to finish the job and come back home to us safe. What President Obama is doing to Ronald Reagan's military that he built is criminal. The smallest air force in history, with 1/3 of the fighter fleet grounded, a Navy shrinking to its smallest size since before World War I, the smallest army since 1940, and a greatly strained United States Marine Corps. There are long lines of equipment and vehicles stacked up at maintenance depots. Hundreds of thousands of proud soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen being tossed out of uniform and into the Barack Obama economy. Heck, I just saw a report. We're spending $12 million on Gophers at Fort Lewis, Washington, but yet we're furloughing Department of Defense employees. And never forget this. When Americans were under attack by Islamic terrorists in Benghazi, they called for help, and no one answered. Ladies and gentlemen, President Obama got the phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton got the phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. They rolled over and went to sleep. He got on an airplane and went out to Las Vegas and came to Colorado for fundraising and campaign events. That's not leadership. That is a lack of character, and I will tell you it is cowardice to leave our men and women under attack and turn your back on them. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In these times, we must ask, can we even respond with Russia rising and China militarizing, with North Korea threatening to fire rockets in our direction and Iran going nuclear, with the Middle East on fire and the threat of radical Islamic terrorism spreading to all corners of the globe, Barack Obama cuts the military so he can spend that money on more Solyndras, more food stamps, and on Obamacare. I say this as I close: enough of this progressive poison. It's time for the next conservative revolution. Once again, it's time for choosing. It's time for that rendezvous with destiny, the destiny that defines the greatness and exceptionalism of this constitutional republic, the United States of America. Let's bring in a new generation, the next generation of faith, the next generation of freedom, the next generation of family, of friends, the next generation of our cherished flag. Let's stop talking and start walking. Let's live up to the faith and courage of Psalms and the wisdom of Proverbs. And let our spirits be lifted high, known to all men, all women, all Americans, all of our allies in all corners of this globe. Let's forge a new generation, a new conservative generation that guarantees the American dream for another 200 years. Thank you. Finally, when the history recalls Barack Obama, let it not remember him, but remember, rather, this new generation, a generation that guided us out of his darkness, a generation that will guide us out of his turmoil, a generation that will guide us out of his despair, a generation that will reignite that bright, burning light that we call America. Each and every one of you, you must forever remain steadfast and loyal. And each and every one of you, God bless you all, and God bless these great United States of America. Thank you so much.